Every Batman Arkham on the Steam Deck OLED. We got Arkham Asylum, City, Origins, Knight, and Blackgate, which I don't really consider an Arkham game, but there it is, so let's get into it right away. For Batman Arkham Asylum, it's actually unsupported. For some reason, in some cases it crashes. By using the Proton GE, any of the Proton GEs, I didn't have any issues launching the game. Some people do, so Proton DB, link in the description. Some people tried something extra through Proton tricks to be able to make it run. So once you hit play, you're going to have a loading screen, maybe 1 minute. Maybe you have this for 1 minute, and it will have the launcher. So wait for the launcher to show up. There it is. We hit settings, something like this. I only disabled physics. Hit OK, and hit play. So once you're into the game, you'll see that you're locked to basically 62 FPS, classic Unreal Engine 3 thing. So let's go into desktop mode and fix this. So hit the Steam button, go into power, and then switch to desktop, library. In Arkham Asylum, go to manage, browse local files, and in here you're going to go back to Steam apps, compact data, this will take a while, 35140, PFX, C drive, users, Steam user, documents, Square Enix, Batman Arkham Asylum, BM game, config, and in bmengine.ini, first make sure it's not read-only. I changed this myself, but double check that it's not read-only. Open it, and you need to search for a value of smooth frame rate. It's called something like that. So we're going to make sure that here, this is by default on false. We're going to put it on true. The max smooth frame rate, we're going to put it at, I don't know, 92 to be above the refresh rate. We can cap it using the Steam Deck system level thing. And once that's done, hit on save, close this, and now back into gaming mode. After launching the game once more, you'll see that it's basically at 92 like we marked in the config file. So let's just go ahead and show you handheld mode. After doing those tweaks, we have 90 FPS Arkham Asylum. What about battery life? Basically 3 hours at 90 FPS. There's some minor stutters here and there. You'll be able to get a bit more battery life by using 2 times MSAA instead of 4 times. This is a very old game at this point, so shouldn't be a problem. It's completely fine. This is a great looking game in my opinion, considering its age. And if you're looking at combat, it's not really complicated at all. It works fantastically well. It's just, of course, a demonstration of the combat, so you have something interesting to look at. Just looking at Batman walking around, I think it's not really that interesting. And what to say? Great game for the Steam Deck in my opinion. 3.5 hours of battery at 90 Hz. A bit more if you're using 2 times MSAA. And it works better than it should, but hey, it's a PS3 game at the end of the day, so yeah. It works well. Would I personally play at 90? I mean, if battery life isn't a concern, yeah, sure, why not? But if you need long battery life, maybe consider a 6 FPS cap. Sorry about the reflection. When it's dark, it's pretty easy to get a reflection of myself. But at least you know that this is legit, I guess. And we're going to see one of those Predator things, stealth section. As you can see, 90 Hz is more than achievable, 3.5 hours of battery. But let's just say you want more battery life. Well, 60 Hz. This should give you a nice boost on battery life. Instead of 3 hours, how much are we getting? Let's find out. And I don't know about you guys, but I usually tend to overuse this active mode, which kind of breaks the purpose of the game being good looking. Okay. So personally, for more than 4 hours of battery, I'll just lock it to 60 and 2 times MSIA. You can do, again, 90 if you want to, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary, honestly. Oof, I'm so dead. They'll probably lose me if I go to the other corner of the map, right? So yeah, that's Arkham Asylum. If you have issues running the game for any reason, follow the Proton tricks guide that is in the description below, but that shouldn't be necessary. For Arkham City, once you hit play, you'll have the option to configure the PC options. Tell them to ask you each time, so you don't go directly into the options menu each and every time. Alright, once in this menu, hold the Steam key and the right trackpad will act as a mouse. And make sure to put the settings like I'm doing right now. The X11 features, in my opinion, they should be disabled, just because the CPU performance is not good with the X11, at least in my opinion. You can enable it if you want to, but again, it wasn't a great PC port to begin with, so I think if you keep it on the X9, it will be a better experience, and the game still looks very good. Welcome to Arkham City. This is one of my favorites. And you can also unlock the frame rate like in Arkham Asylum, if you want to, because otherwise you'd be at like 62 FPS. And why didn't I enable the DX11 features? Well, they add tessellation and all that good stuff, better ambient occlusion as well, but honestly I don't think it's worth it considering the extra stuttering you get. I learned that from the first Steam Deck video testing this game on the LCD. And due to that thing about being a bad PC port to begin with, at least in my opinion, makes this game worth just playing at 60 FPS instead of 90. 90 is nice, but there's even more stutter than when I'm doing 60s. So in order for the game to be as stable as possible with the best possible battery life as well, I mean there's still some stutter, don't get me wrong, I highly recommend you just lock it to 60 and avoid the DX11 features. Plus you get more battery life, the game still looks great. Honestly, you have to look at side-by-sides to see it at first glance. I mean, tessellation is nice, but on this one really, I think it's a little bit exaggerated. Okay, now going towards the enemies. Let's pop out some balloons. Stupid balloons. And let's combat. And again, since we're not traversing, it's not really an issue. It's super consistent. Again, if you don't mind the extra stutter, enable the X11 and unlock the frame rate like I did with Arkham Asylum. It's completely doable, but again, this one is less stable. Definitely a very poor PC port. So again, in order to get the best experience, in my opinion, this is what you should use, even if you're on the OLED Steam Deck. If you're on the LCD Steam Deck, I mean, it's by itself 60 Hz. There shouldn't be much of a change, really. And when it comes to CPU performance, I mean, we're more than up to the task. It's an older game. Still not perfect, as you can see, when it comes to frame times, but it's a heck of a lot better than targeting 90. Just due to how stable you can get by just locking it to 60 plus the more than 4 hours of battery. I think that's absolutely perfect. So So I would have never guessed that one day I could play it like this. It's pretty insane. And 60s is the way to go on this one, in my opinion. Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate. This is more of a light game, 800p, basically everything enabled. It's at 60 FPS, so don't even try going higher. And this is more of a side-scrolling game, 2.5D. You probably, if you never heard of it, well, it's not fantastic. Let's just leave it at that. Some people like it. It's not greatly reviewed. But if you're interested in this one, a different take on the Arkham franchise, more of a side-scrolling thing, you can do it.
Not even sweating. Aren't you a cool customer?
This feels like what today would be a mobile game version of a bigger game.
Helpless.
And this is basically 6 hours of battery. No problems whatsoever. So 2.5D game. 3D environment obviously. So if you're interested in this one, it obviously works fantastically well. One of the few verified Batman games on the Steam Deck. But the other ones also work, so yeah, I just wanted to show it to you very quickly. Very easy to run, over 6 hours of battery, easily, obviously. Batman Arkham Origins, so this one really, I think calling it underappreciated is an understatement, so basically settings like this. If you want to target 90s, we're going to do that. Lower from DX11 enhanced to normal. Again, this is if you're targeting 90s. So you save the changes. And again, on this one, like I said in Arkham City, if you disable the DX11 features, that on this one I think they make quite a big difference. You'll be getting a pretty consistent 90 FPS. I'm going to show you a 6 FPS target as well. When it comes to battery life, probably 3 hours, something like that. We're not on a full charge at the moment, we have 85% battery. So yeah, it works pretty well if you want to do 90s on the OLED. If you have the LCD, obviously, just max it out, excepting depth of field. But man, basically Warner Brothers ignores this game when it comes to the Batman trilogy. I mean trilogy. It's not a trilogy technically because this game exists. But man, what a good game. I'll highly recommend it. It's basically Arkham City before when Batman just started his gig as Batman. Traversal has some drops below 90, but when you are playing the game, it's most of the time into the 90s just fine. But what about 6 FPS? Well, 6 FPS I would recommend more, as I said on the previous ones. Just increase dynamic shadows to DX11 enhanced, same with geometry, same with ambient occlusion. Ignore depth of field on the maximum, destroys frame rates. So we apply the changes, go in here, unlock it to 6 FPS. There we go. Now we got the game running at 60 Hz.
How's he doing that?
No issues whatsoever, and you get increased fidelity. Mostly when it comes to shadow resolution, how defined the shadows are, the amount of shadows, and also the snow is actually deformable, which looks pretty cool considering this is an older game. I was pretty impressed that there's dynamic snow in some buildings. But again, I think like this is the best way to play it. Much more battery life, probably 3.5 hours on a full charge or more. Or optionally, you can also do 90s, as I showed you a second ago. But again, the fact that this game is always forgotten about It's kind of mind-blowing because it's pretty damn good. The combat is very fluid on this one.
There he is! My ass ate ya.
Oh man, I forgot how to play this. I'm playing Arkham Knight instead. I haven't played this one in a while, but it's one of the ones that I played the most when it came out, before Arkham Knight took over. I don't know, the combat on this one is super fluid. It's even more fluid than Arkham City, which might be a controversial opinion. But hey, fantastic game. I highly recommend it if you never tried it, or if you didn't know it existed. Well, it's not made by Rocksteady, but I think it's fantastic. Lots of villains, lots of content. Looks better than Arkham City, obviously, newer technology. But it runs well, and I think it's worth your time. And on the OLED, as you can see, it's completely fine, and you can also do 90s. Let's jump into the next one. Before that, let me dive bomb on this guy. Yeah, boom.
What are the odds?
Yeah, reduce 2 atoms. He's not breathing ever again.
Back off!
Finally, Batman Arkham Knight. We're going to try 30s and 40s, maybe 45. These are the settings for 40-45 FPS, something like that. This game is still pretty hard to maintain at a consistent frame rate when traversing, unfortunately. It still stutters from time to time, as you can see, just by traversing around. And that's no surprise, it's been like that since the beginning. It's a little bit better now. Now we have better hardware than in the past, obviously. I mean, playing this portably kind of blows my mind. When I played this game for the first time, it was a 30 FPS experience on PC. If I was lucky, I could play at 1080p. But I had a 750 Ti back then. And as you can see, just driving around drops frames quite significantly. What would I do in this situation? Well, probably a 40 FPS cap. 45 is also enticing, but I don't think we can stay there consistently. So let's first try 45. Let's see if it stays where it should be, which is half 90 Hz. Should be perfect. And with this 45 FPS cap, yeah, the frame time is still a bit spiky. I might lock it to 40 instead, but it feels way smoother than playing at 30 FPS. And this game is still gorgeous to this day. I don't know how they did it. Art style, that's what it has. I think that's the answer. But a 45 doesn't seem to be 100% perfect. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you would play this at 45 or 40. I think all things considered, well, 45 is pretty cool. I think we still need to lower it a little bit, especially for traversal. When you're in combat or doing hand-to-hand combat on the ground, something like that, shouldn't be much of an issue. The thing is, when you're driving around or moving quickly, that's when it likes to have a spiky frame time. So most of the time it will be at 45, but there will be drops when traversing. This part, I remember this part being super demanding. And well, what to say? Without traversal, it's completely fine. So 45 is not a bad idea if you don't mind some drops here and there with traversal. I think the game looks great and it's pretty smooth at 45. If you decide to go for 40s, it's still way better than 30s. Trust me on that one. I played this mostly at 30 FPS when it came out. The fact that we can portably play this at over 40 FPS, I think is super impressive. Okay, Batmobile. And one way to destroy the frame rate was to do Batmobile destruction, like that. So yeah, maybe 40 FPS is better, all up to you at that point. If you're on an LCD Steam Deck though, lock it at 40, do yourself a favor. Let's do a 30 FPS configuration. Alright, the 30 FPS configuration, quote unquote, will be everything on the highest. If you want to use motion blur, go for it. In this game I think it's super aggressive, so all up to you there. And you lock it to 30 in this menu, as usual. And man, after playing this at 40s, this feels dreadful. Yeah, I don't think it's worth increasing the graphics or spiky 30 FPS. I mean, it looks a tiny bit better with these settings, but it just doesn't feel smooth. Dude, just playing at 45 or 40 is such a treat. Overdoing 30s. It's kind of crazy how much worse it feels. And if you think about it, it's only 10 frames more. Or 15 in this case. So yeah, you can do it. It's not 100% perfect, but the option is there if you want it for some reason. Still, 45 FPS or 40s all the way on this one. At least on the Steam Deck. So yeah, what are my thoughts on the Batman Arkham franchise on the Steam Deck? Well, all of them run fantastically well. The first one, Arkham Asylum, and Blackgate, Origins Blackgate, which is more of a 2.5D game. Those run completely fine. If you play them at 90, well, Arkham Origins Blackgate is actually 60, the game itself. But you can do Arkham Asylum at 90 FPS with a good amount of battery life. Just put 2 times MSIA. Arkham City you can also get 90s by editing a config file. Personally I wouldn't do it because it's more stuttery. I don't know what they did wrong on that one. And disable the DX11 features just to be able to get a more consistent frame rate and at the same time a bit more battery life. I think it's worth using the settings that I told you. Then when it comes to Arkham Origins, if you lower the settings a little bit on that underappreciated game, you get 90 FPS. And if you want better visuals and a bit more battery life, increase the settings and put it at 6 FPS. I think in games like this, 60 FPS is completely fine. Although man, 30s it just feels horrible after playing everything else at 60 or 40 or 90. But for Arkham Knight, at the end of the day, I'll just put it at 40 or 45 with a little bit lowered settings for stability. And yeah, I'll be completely happy with that. The game still looks fantastic, but the smoothness is just something else when it's at 45 or 40. But hey, that's the good part about PC. You get to do whatever the heck you want. If you don't like the settings like that, you can change them. But these games by themselves work completely fine. I love the future. I can play every Batman game on the go. No problems. For the most part. And this one, what to say, looks still fantastic even today. It beats some modern games, honestly. So let me guys know what you think of the results. If you would play this on Steam Deck, if you would play this at 45, 40 or 30 when it comes to Arkham Knight, what would you do with the others? I'll be interested to know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys!